This experience happened when I was in my late 20s, back around late 1994 or early 95. I was laying in bed asleep. I felt something touch my face, and I woke up. I was face to face with a smiling old man. He crawled backwards out of my bed and stood there smiling at me. He looked like he was Caucasian descent, in his 80s at least. He had a glowing light all around him. He looked like he was at peace while staring at me. I have no idea who this was. Furthermore, I don't know why I wasn't afraid of him. He definitely looked scary to me, and I had roommates at the time. I don't know why I didn't go running down the hallway to get someone. I just stayed in bed and stared at him. Again, I wasn't afraid at all. It was almost peaceful. He faded away, and I looked at the clock in front of me. It was 3 a.m. in the morning. I stayed up a little while, and then went back to sleep. How do you talk about something like this? I didn't tell any of my roommates when it happened. I was fearful because I thought I would be outed as a crazy person. I did call my best friend, and thankfully she seemed to believe me. I gave her my rocking chair, and she wanted to make sure the spirit was not standing next to it. So yes, I think she believed me. I've thought about it a lot over the years, trying to figure out who this could have been. I told my grandmother. She's Catholic and thinks it was an angel. I've never met my father, and I have no pictures of him, so I don't know what he looked like. But perhaps, maybe this could have been my father? My mother is Spanish and French, and supposedly, my father was of Caucasian descent like the spirit of the old man. So again, maybe it was the father or grandfather that I never met. Who knows? Since then, I've now had a husband and children. I mentioned it once to my husband. He looked at me like I was crazy, and I'm not allowed to talk about it again. Anyway, thank you for reading my story. I know it sounds unbelievable, but it's the best I can do to tell you guys. These are two experiences that happened to me about 5 years ago. Here's the first story. My house is 6 years old and has never been lived in by anyone else. This started about 2 months ago. I'm laying in my bed alone, with the door to the hall and the door to the bathroom open. I swear I see the door open a little bit and then go back to where it was. I then see black figures with little or no shape appear in the doorway. Then whoosh, they are gone. I also saw what looked like people I knew, who will stick their heads in the door and then turn and leave. Last night I was asleep when I felt something nudge me 2 times. I woke up to see this black form standing beside me. It stood there for about 2 seconds, then vanished out the door. The most interesting aspect of this all is that these figures have no legs. They are just a black oval shape with no faces or arms. Just a black form. Last night was the first time it really scared me. I felt like it was the Grim Reaper asking me to follow him. Now on to my next experience, which was even spookier, I might add. I was working in a gym at a hotel in Moodsburn near Glasgow. One night, I was getting ready to leave for the night. The route I had to take was down a dark corridor to the main door. This was a walk I had made many times before, and had never any problems. But this night, As I was going along, I felt like I was being watched. As I got to the end of the corridor, I turned to close the door when I saw what looked like a white shape running towards me. Needless to say, I closed and locked the door very quickly and sprinted to the bus stop outside the hotel. The next night, I was working again and decided to see what could have caused it. I went through every possibility I could have think of, from car headlights to interior lights, but nothing recreated what I had seen. About 2 days later, I was looking through the old accident book when I found an entry from 3 years before. A man was running on the treadmill and died of a heart attack whilst using it. What was interesting was, it was the same date and time of when I saw this incident myself, of the running man. This happened to a friend and I back in the mid-1960s, when we were 12 or 13 years of age each, and we were camping with our church group, and while we had some free time, Alan and me as in Mark, decided to do exploring on our own, so we set off towards the perimeter of the park, where we found a fence that we could easily squeeze through, surrounding the park property. And bordering some large open cow pasture land was a grove of trees right smack in the middle of it. We set off across the pasture land towards the grove of trees, and much to our delight, for it was a hot day, we found a meandering stream in the grove of trees that was about 6 feet deep and about 6 feet wide, and it wandered all throughout the grove. But to our dismay, Alan and I realized that we were wearing blue jean pants and a t-shirt, and had not brought along our swimsuits, since we were not planning on going swimming until later, when the springs in the park was less crowded, so we had nothing to wear to go swimming at that time. But Alan convinced me that there was nobody around to see us, and we could go swimming like they used to do in the old days, by going swimming in the nude or skinny dipping, and nobody could tell we had nothing on. Once we were in the water, and not wanting to be labeled a coward or chicken by my friend, I quickly got undressed, and we dove into the cool water. We swam around in the water for about 15 minutes, when we were startled to see a young boy, about our age, dressed in some dusty old-fashioned looking overalls, and barefoot, staring at Alan and me from the bushes. And even though he probably saw we were both skinny dipping, by our clothes hanging from the bushes, neither Alan or me felt embarrassed about it. After all of us were boys, and Alan got bold, but staying in the water, Alan said hi to him. The boy came out of the bushes, but didn't get near the banks, and he just stared at Alan and me for a solid 20 seconds. All we could think to do was ask him if he wanted to go swimming with us, but at this point, I don't think we realized it was a ghost at the moment. We just always thought it was a kid that always hung around this area, and just wanted to play because we were playing around. But then, it was like he had simply vanished again. Alan and I did not wear glasses, and our vision was perfect, and we were looking straight at the boy as we climbed out of the stream, and like I said, the boy just disappeared before our very eyes, just kinda blinked out of sight, and Alan and I quickly got into our jeans and looked around for him, but he was nowhere to be found in the bushes. And if he wanted to play with us, why did he disappear? And if he had left the grove of trees, which he didn't, we would have seen him in the open pasture land. And afterwards, we talked about our experience between us, but Alan and I didn't tell anyone of this, knowing that no one would ever believe us. Alan and I both wondered if the boy might have fallen into the stream from the crumbling banks and drowned in that stream many years ago. And as the kids our age wouldn't be caught dead wearing old-fashioned looking overalls, When all the kids we knew were wearing the latest looking fashions, was it even remotely possible that perhaps Alan and me saw a ghost that day? One who was lonely and just wanted to play. I worked at a place called Dowling as a janitor for a year. My shift was overnight, and for 3 months, I worked that shift alone. I never saw a purple orb, but I did spend a lot of time outside. What I can tell you is that after the creepiness of being in a big building all alone wears off, there are still sounds and such that can't be explained by me. Every week, if not every night, doors would open and close by themselves. Me and the others would go chasing these noises, thinking there was someone in the building, but of course, there was no one there, or I wouldn't be writing to you. And the security company wouldn't call to say an external alarm went off, so there couldn't have been anyone there. Sometimes we'd be in the library, and we'd hear one of the counselor's doors open and close. The library was the same room, but divided by office walls from the counselor area. Sometimes the classroom doors would as well. At times, I'd be in the gym and would chase the sound of footsteps. The place does make a lot of building noises. It's difficult to report on anything I heard in the auditorium, the creepiest place in the school, because the roof and heating systems would collaborate with the big empty space to make many mysterious noises that could be too easy to explain away. Plus, the auditorium was creepy because it was always dark until I would clean it, and there were so many access areas, such as backstage or the lighting area above the stage and the several doors, that would really just make me paranoid. Having said all that, I did sometimes get transfixed on the idea that an emaciated naked woman was watching me. I only got that feeling in or around that particular room. It makes no sense to me, but I did avoid it. The band room was also a little creepy. I would sometimes take my lunch there so I could listen to the radio, and the doors within would make noises like they were opening and shutting. There was one definitive time that I also couldn't explain. I went into the library and locked the door behind me because I was hearing so many noises around that door that night. Then, I climbed over the wall to the counselor's area and unlocked that door so I could rush through it when I heard the noise. Sure enough, the library door tried to open because I heard the deadbolt hit the door frame. So I ran to the hall and listened for footsteps, but there were none. I ran to look down both north and south halls along the library, but there was nobody, and there was nowhere to hide. I didn't think someone could have gotten away like that, not in that manner anyway, without making enough noise for me to hear it. A similar thing happened one night when all 3 of the overnight janitors were in there. We heard the noises in the counselor's area, so I climbed the wall while the other guys went to the doors, but nobody was there. I want to assure you of 2 things, even though these aren't really the most impressive tales. First, I don't really believe in ghosts. I'm open enough to the idea, I guess, but anytime I heard a noise, I would go looking for somebody because I assumed it was an intruder. There were times we had intruders, and times people who had rights to the building were found. However, there were so many times that we were sure there were noises, and so little chance for whoever was making them to escape, and we still found nothing, that I thought you might be interested to hear the story of Dowling from someone who was there for a long time. The building stopped creeping me out by itself about a week after I was working there alone. I heard voices and chased them, but the air unit, the building setting, and other normal noises stopped giving me the jitters by the time they became normal for me. I don't really believe in ghosts, but I saw the purple orb listed on the website after a night of chasing these noises, so I decided to write this to you. Albeit, 2 years after the fact. Last thing I want to say, there are 2 creepy stories about the place from a source that I'm not sure I trust, but I'll tell you anyway. One time, this guy saw people in robes walking into the woods west of the building. Another time, a girl was taken advantage of in the auditorium. A funny, unbelievable, but true story from the overnight shift. Ninjas attacked the school one night and put one of the soccer goals in the atrium. The kids did this for their overnight prank. They seriously climbed onto the roof of the school with 2 of the school's regulation-sized soccer goals and dumped them into the atrium. I chased off a bunch of kids when they were trying to get on the roof a 3rd time. They were all dressed like ninjas. My name is Carly, and I used to live in a 100-year-old house on the Eastern Shore in Maryland. This house was on a street with about 10 other houses, all closely related in shape and size, except my friend's. She's my best friend, and the man who had built all the houses in our street lived in hers. They have never had any bad experiences in theirs, up until now. My friend's older sister came back for Thanksgiving, and she woke up in the middle of the night and saw a form of a giant man. The man closely resembled Andre the Giant, even though she thought it was her boyfriend. When she looked next to her, he was sleeping. She really didn't think too much more about it until the next day, where the rest of the family shared that they had been hearing and seeing things too. My house was only a few years younger than hers. My parents bought it at an auction because the whole thing had to be gutted and renewed. As my dad was working on it, he was putting in new windows one day and saw a man. He was crouched down with his face right up against the wall, looking at the window he had just put in. The man saw my dad get up and disappeared. I've had my own experiences too. Like, we used to hear someone running up and down the halls at night. My room was right at the end, and my bed looked out the door. When the person got to the end, you could hear them turn around and run back. That wasn't too bad though. I also remember going into my room and saw a crowd of people. They were all dark figures with the outline of a trench coat that were so long you couldn't see their feet. They slowly faded away, and I didn't go back in the room for weeks. I would stay in the other guest bedroom. I had a great aunt, and she was a psychic. I loved her. We had the strongest bond you could ever have with anyone. She died of cancer, and it was terribly hard on me. I ended up with some things of hers, like her tarot cards, but most importantly, her angel cards. I'd just gotten these, and I was up in my room playing with them when I pulled up one card that had a picture of a lady on it. This lady looked exactly like my aunt, and she was surrounded by animals. My aunt had a basement full of bunnies, birds, fish. She had 5 cats and 5 dogs. The message on the card said, "A message from your loved one. I'm fine, very happy now. Don't worry about me, and don't forget about me, but don't let me overtake your life." Then it said goodbye, and I love you on it too. After I read that, I teared up and ran downstairs. I showed my mom, and she couldn't even believe it. I couldn't believe it either, so I got scared and told my mom to take the cards out of my room, just in case. My mom put it on her dresser. They were there for about a week or 2, and then they disappeared. My mom never moved them, and neither did anybody else. No one had touched them, and they had just vanished. I'm for sure that was her final message to me. Maybe not forever, but just so I wouldn't worry. It was her proper goodbye. The week before Thanksgiving, My son and I were emptying out a house that was to be torn down and this new one brought in. We were standing by my pickup truck, which we were loading, and he happened to look at a bright light in the sky and said, "Hey, look at that. Is it a plane?" I looked up, and there were no flashing lights, just looked like a wide set of headlights, no other colored lights. I thought at first it was a plane, but no sound for as low as it seemed. It came over slow and headed east, and I thought it would disappear, like over the trees, like the planes that come over do. But instead, it went up, and did so very quickly, until it was a speck that disappeared. I still wonder what it was. Was it a paranormal entity, like an orb or some sort? But maybe something different, like even a UFO. It's hard to say. But back in 1990, my husband and I were talking outside and happened to look at the edge of our 40 acres. There, just above the trees, was a long cigar-shaped object that covered the entire line of the 40-acre parcel. It had flashing lights and looked like windows were along the side of it. It was reported in the newspaper, as a lot of people saw it that same night. It made no sound at all. My son passed away in August of 2008, and I've had my grandson say that he sees him in my bathroom. I find that strange. Last week he came to me and his mother and said that there was a man in my bathroom and he needed to put his clothes on. When I found my son, he was naked. My grandson didn't see him that way, the way he passed away. He has told me many times that there are ghosts in my house. We have heard doors open and close, and sometimes the floor's creaking. Like last fall, I'd gone in my bathroom to turn off the lights the kids left on. I called out to him, thinking that maybe someone was still in the bathroom. Finally, I said loudly and impatiently, "Who is in here?" I heard a voice distinctly said, "I am," very quietly and clear. I didn't recognize the voice and thought one of the kids were playing a joke on me. No one was near the bathroom, which is just off my master bedroom. It didn't scare me. There are other strange things that happen in my house. We hear little kids outside talking. Most of the time, it is indirect, and you can't make out what they say, and other times, something comes in clear. We just think the land is haunted. You really have to listen to this story very importantly, because this is the most important story you'll ever hear in your entire life. I may be playing this up a bit, but you have to understand, so listen closely. Please share the video. If you don't share the video, then the video won't get out to as many people as possible, and you'll see a sad phantom, sadder than the eye can see. And if you don't leave a comment, and at least tell me which stories you love the most, and why you love them the most, then the world will go to crap. And then, all you'll have is poop, and nobody would like that. Yeah, I resort to juvenile jokes, but that's it. Okay guys, just don't listen to the last part. Definitely share this video. I'm so thankful that I have you guys, and that's all I really have to say. So thank you for tuning in. Please leave a comment and let me know which stories you love the most, as I said, and share the video and everything will be okay. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.